Hello, welcome back to another video, and this time we're looking at an activity that you can do that's perfect for that first class with your new group of students. So if you're watching this and you've got a new class, maybe on a summer course, or you're starting a new academic year and you have a new group, then this activity is going to be perfect for you. And this activity can be used with almost all levels and any ages. So you just have to adapt it to meet the needs of your students. Now, the idea behind this activity is that you need to introduce yourself as the teacher and that your students need to introduce themselves too. But instead of just introducing yourself like, hello, my name's Charlie, I'm from Bath, blah, 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 you're going to make it a bit more interesting and a bit more challenging. Let me show you an example. Come to the whiteboard with me. It's just over here. So you're going to start by writing your name right in the middle of the board. Can you see that? Now what you're going to do is you're going to write the answers to questions, and the students have to come up with the correct question to match the answer. Okay, I've just written on the board Bath, UK. What do you think the question could be to this answer? That's right, where are you from? Or where do you come from? Or where were you born? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to complete the mind map with, let's say, 5 or 6 more answers to questions that the students have to give me. Give me one moment. Okay, so I've just added 5 more answers to questions that the students would have to guess. Let me just show you what I've written. I've got history, I've got director of studies, I've also got the number 2, I've also got Thailand and South Korea, and Pedro. I'm just going to number them so the students can find it easier. So what I'll do now is put the students into pairs, and they'll have to come up with the questions to match these answers. Number 2 would be, what did you study? Number 3 would be, what do you do? Number 4, which is the number 2, and this one's a bit difficult, this would be, how many brothers do you have? Well, actually the first question would be, do you have any brothers or sisters? Number 5 would be, where have you worked? And finally, number 6, Pedro, would be, which of your students do you hate the most? Once we've gone through all the questions, I'll then clean the board and write 1 to 6 and write the questions out for the students nice and clearly with some alternatives so that the students know which are the correct questions. So for example, the number 1 was, where are you from? I will then complete this with number 2 as well. What did you study? I would also ask the students to give me the tenses that match each of these questions. So for example, number 1 would be the present simple, and number 2 would be the past simple. I also had a question using the present perfect simple, number 5, where have you traveled? And I test the students' knowledge of the tenses using these questions. So once I've finished introducing myself, then I'm going to want to know about my students. If you've got a small class, you could get the students to come up and write 6 pieces of information about themselves and get the class to try and guess the questions to match their answers. If you've got a larger group, then why not put them into pairs? Get them to prep 6 pieces of information on a piece of paper, just like I've done on the board, and get them in pairs to swap the pieces of paper. Student A will then try to guess the questions to the answers of student B, and vice versa. Now you can adapt this activity for any level. All you need to do is downgrade or upgrade the level of the questions. For example, if you need to upgrade the language, then why don't you include some conditional sentences, perhaps use the past perfect, or perhaps use some phrasal verbs. For example, I might put as an answer, lying on the beach. And the students would have to get the question, what would you be doing if you weren't teaching us right now? Or if you want to downgrade the language, then you could do something very simple. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite animal? And I would put things like blue, cat, etc. So this really is an activity that works with all levels. Now, once the students have all finished introducing themselves, then why don't you ask the group to look for common areas? This is so important, especially on the first day of class, for students to start getting to know each other. So make sure you're making notes of the students when they are introducing themselves, not only to the class, but perhaps to their partner too. Also make notes of the personal information that the students share, because you're going to be testing them on it for the rest of the year. The students have decided to share that information during that first class, but that doesn't have to be the end of it. You can take that information and test the students on it for the rest of the year. Every time the students come back to class, you can test them just on a few things about their partners so that they don't forget. It will also be nice for the other students to see that their classmates were listening to them when they were introducing themselves to the class. This is a very communicative activity that has a focus on speaking. If you do like doing speaking activities with your students in class, then make sure you go check out my video on speaking activities that are perfect, like this activity, for all ages and levels. So that's it. That's my activity that I do with every first class that I take on, be it in the summer or the academic year. And so why don't you try it too? I'll see you in the next video.